tonight. He'll get right to the business of the re-election campaign with a web chat with supporters in Iowa tomorrow. Then he heads to the important battleground state of Ohio on Wednesday, visiting Cleveland. Brad Woodhouse is the communications director for the Democratic National Committee. Good to see you, Brad. Good morning.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning to you.
So we've all been focusing on what's been going on in Iowa, obviously, while you folks at the DNC have been pretty much focusing on Mitt Romney, frankly, starting with some of those ads a couple of months ago, painting him as a flip-flopper. So a day before the caucus, how confident are you that Barack Obama will be running against Mitt Romney?
Well, look, we're not going to try to pick the Republican nominee. I mean, what's interesting about this race, Chris, is there's been a different flavor every month. We have Santorum now. We had Gingrich before that, Perry, Kane, Bachmann. And Romney's kind of been the stale flavor, if you will. He's been at 20–25%. I think this is still anyone's race, and I think the president can beat any one of them because they all subscribe to the same economic philosophy that sank the economy in 2008. And Americans don't want to go back to that. And
yet, as I watch what you folks are doing, it does seem that the DNC does focus on Mitt Romney. Yesterday, you went after him in a big way, using Randy Johnson, that former paper plant worker whose plant was bought by Bain Capital, going after what Democrats argue is a job-killing record in the private sector. Johnson said, quote, I really feel that he didn't care about the workers. Is this going to get pretty negative pretty fast?
Well, look, let me just say one thing about that. I mean, we've been focused on Romney to a large extent because he's been focused on the president. I mean, he has been strutting around like he's the presumed nominee, and if he wants to act like that, we're gonna treat him like that. But look, this is not about being negative. This is about setting the record straight. Mitt Romney would have you believe that he was doing something in the private sector akin to what his father was doing, making cars. He wasn't. I mean, he was buying and selling companies, and he was making money no matter what it took. If that meant bankrupting them and that made Bain Capital money, well, that was just fine. If it meant laying off workers or outsourcing jobs, that was just fine. So we want to make sure the American people know what he was doing in the private sector. Perfectly fine to do it. It's legal. You know, some people may want to question whether or not it's moral, but we want to make sure people know he wasn't making widgets.
So while you're gearing up your campaign on the Republican side, their advertising plan is pretty well known. They want to use Barack Obama's own words against him. The Washington Post has seen the book, which is this 500 pages of quotes that they plan to use to make the case that Obama made specific promises and came into office with high expectations and has failed to deliver on both. Given the state of the economy, do they have a good case?
I don't believe they do, Chris. I mean, when the president came in, we were losing 750,000 jobs a month. We had just come out a quarter of nearly 9% negative economic growth, and now we've had 21 consecutive months of private sector job growth to the tune of 3 million jobs. I mean, the president saved the economy from sinking into a second Great Depression.
Here's the problem, though, I think, with that argument,
Sure.
and I'm certainly not the first person to say this, is that it's not an easy argument to make when you look at a job approval rating of 46%, when you look at an unemployment rate that's still 8.6%, GDP at 2%, that in the very real lives of people, while you may be able to legitimately make those claims, that the broader picture and history will tell you that's a tough place to be running from.
Well, look, there's no doubt, but I mean, this president has he put policies in place that did reverse the decline. We have seen, as I said, 21 consecutive months of private sector job growth. We see some signs in the economy that things should continue to turn around. But look, for the past year, Republicans have tried to stop any progress. They would be happy if we didn't create a single job between now and the election, if that meant they could throw Barack Obama out of office, and that's a case that we're going to be making as well.
DNC Communications Director Brad Woodhouse, it's good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris.